Every rock kills us a little more.
I was going to bed last night, and this episode of The Expanse just dropped. Literally, when I was about to walk into the bedroom door, I was just checking my phone. I'm so used to Disney and Netflix adding their stuff at 8 AM, I forgot that Amazon do it a bit earlier. I thought I'd have to wait till the morning to watch this, but I ended up staying up watching it and then doing this video, so I do think that deserves a like. Oh no, by the way, I better do the intro. As always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review. I'm talking about The Expanse, Season 6, Episode 1, Strange Dogs, so this is your only warning, it will contain spoilers. Sadly, we're in the final run of The Expanse, and man, I've been looking forward to this show coming back, but it's bittersweet. I love this show. I discovered it in lockdown. I'd been meaning to watch it for years, and I finally get round to doing it in lockdown. And I think I've probably watched it 3 or 4 times since then. Some seasons I've definitely watched more than 3 or 4 times. So although it's back and I'm excited and I'm glad to see the ship and the characters and everything like that again, I'm not looking forward to the end of this. Not by the fact that I think it's going to be bad, but by the fact that I'm sad that it's ending. This show is just amazing. If you haven't seen it, why are you watching this video? I'm talking about Season 6, Episode 1. Go back to the start. It's one of the best sci-fi shows I've ever seen. It's certainly one of the most critically acclaimed one. It was actually the reviews of this that got me into the show. I didn't know anything about it. But anyway, let's crack on with this episode. So it's 6 months into the end of Season 5, and with a few more books left in the series, it's fair to say that we're not going to get as much as we want in terms of the story. We open up in Laconia, where we were last season, and a girl called Kara finds a strange alien creature that looks like a dog, and we get a great view of the orbital platforms that we've seen last season as well, but we can't really see what they're up to, if there's anything else really going on there. I don't know how much of a role this Laconia stuff is going to play in the final season. I think it's going to be a sort of B story, and we might get a few flashbacks to it, but they can't really pick up this arc too much because in the books it is completely monumental. The books skip about 20 or jump about 20 or 30 years, and I'm not going to get into it or ruin it if you've not read the books, but yeah, the stuff about the Laconians and what they get up to and the Martian defectors were in the books is wow. But after the title credits, we get the newsreel catching us up, showing us what's been happening, and Marco's still attacking Earth. In fact, he's been doing it a few hundred times. Most of the rocks are getting shot down, but fragments are still making it through to the planet, killing millions, and it's having a cumulative effect on the atmosphere. You see Avasarala and Bobby, and they're somewhere in the Mediterranean, and it's snowing. So although Marco isn't really destroying Earth the way that he wants in a nuclear bomb style fashion, he's picking away, and 1,000 cuts can be as deadly as one blade. And yeah, pretty much is a dark place for everyone, either psychologically or just where they are in their life. So I'm going to break the video down into 3 aspects, which is Earth, the Belt, and the Rocinante. So as I said, we pick up with Bobby and Avasarala, who are talking about what's been happening, and you get a real sense of the devastation and how grim it is on Earth. We've finally seen quite a bit of Earth in Season 5 when Amos was there, and we've seen before and after the attacks, and even before the attacks it wasn't that great. There's a lot of people that are on the basic income that are on unemployment and have got nothing to do. There's overpopulation, and with these constant attacks you can imagine it's probably a bit like, you know, Berlin or London during the Blitz. You're just kind of living day to day, and I wouldn't imagine you're getting any real progress. And it's not just these strikes that are causing the issue, it's the fact that Marco, even though they're sort of generally or widely unsuccessful, these constant attacks is basically making Earth have its back to the wall, so it's got all its ships helping to defend the planet, and they aren't really able to go out and chase down and kill Marcus and engage in the big sort of battles that we've seen in the previous seasons. Judging from the trailers that we've seen for this season, we are going to get some epic space battles. Although there's less episodes, apparently they did have the same budget, so there should be more packed into every episode. And if one thing that this show does, and it does a lot of things really well, in fact it doesn't really do a lot of things wrong, is the space stuff is just on another level. But yeah, as I say, Earth isn't really doing well, it's sort of dying very slowly. And I'd say that none of the characters are particularly doing well either from any side. None of them are really where they wanted to be or where they expected to be. And none of that is more true than with Marco and Aros. He's cemented his place in the belt, he's taken out his enemies, and he's still after Drummer. We find out that he's killed Anderson Dawes, which is a shame because I was hoping we're going to get to see Jared Harris back. He's not been back in a few seasons. And although he's been busy with Foundation and we've had the pandemic and things like that, it would have been nice to see him, but I understand why we're not, and that's perfectly fine. But Marcos, it's a very sort of careful what you wish for scenario. He's now got his war with Earth, and although he hasn't won, he's generally prevailing. Again, there's no real battles because he's got Earth backed into a corner here. But he doesn't seem that interested in anything other than victory. He's not a very good statesman. At the start of the episode, a person in his organisation is trying to get him to talk about the future and plan about, storing food and preparing and helping the people and what they're going to need, and he's just not interested at all. And the reason for that is he's a glory hunter. He's not interested in anything else other than his own name and his own legend, and he's quite happy to throw people in the fire to do that. We've seen it in the last season, and I think this is going to be his downfall. But speaking of not handling things well, Philip isn't dealing with the situation that he's in particularly well either. He's feeling effects of the actions that the Free Navy has taken, mainly his conscience and the fact that he's been involved in the death of millions with the attack on Earth. So he isn't as lined up with his father's point of view in the last season. And I don't know, I can understand why someone would feel like this, but is this related to any of the conversations that he had with Naomi last season? Are we going to get any more with this relationship? Philip has taken a really quick, dark turn now. I know it's been 5 or 6 months, but this kid or this guy was fully on board with the OPA, and now he just seems completely directionless and lost, and it's pretty tragic. He does some dark stuff in this episode that I'm not going to get into and ruin it too much, but I don't know if it's going to be the conflict between Philip and Marco that maybe ends Marco or maybe ends Philip. And the Rossi crew aren't doing particularly well either. They've been sort of engaging in hit and run battles and trying to gather intelligence on Marco since we last seen them. And we pick up mid-battle, and I say it again, the CGI looks great. Everything's great. This show is like the standard for space sci-fi at the moment. I mean, Foundation's probably going to take it over unless we get more Expanse, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Just watch the episode because this show is beautiful. But everyone does look like they could take a break. Everyone looks worn down, tired. You can tell their nerves are on edge. Not just with this conflict with Marco, but the death with Alex and the fact that they've now got Clarissa on the crew as well. Naomi isn't very happy about this and feels that Amos has kind of forced her on the crew to replace Alex, which she denies. And you kind of see a bit of conflict between Amos and Naomi that you've not seen in a while either. Generally the conflict was between Holden and someone else, but it's good to see these characters sort of get back into it. In the first 2 seasons I did enjoy the dynamic between Amos and Naomi, so I'm glad that they're getting to spend a little bit more time together even if they're not getting on. And speaking of Clarissa, it's nice to see her on the ship, because one thing I didn't think about until she mentioned it is she grew up incredibly rich and well off and full of privilege, and although we meet her in the season 3 she's working on a ship, that was just a cover. She's never really had to work in her life, if that makes any sense. So being part of a crew and having tasks and sort of being physical and helping fix the ship, that's taken its toll on her as well. It's a huge lifestyle change because, again, she was drugged up in prison for God knows how many months before Amos managed to get her out when the asteroid hit. Drummer is still on the run. She's kind of on her last legs as well. There's only her and 2 other members of her crew or family left. And she's engaged in a few battles that don't go particularly well, not because of a better strategy or superior numbers. It's just, again, everyone's worn down and mistakes are getting made. And it doesn't seem that she's really had a moment to sit down and recoup or come up with a plan since the events of the last season. I think she's just always been on the run for these 6 months with the crew, and again, they've hardly got any food or weapons left, so they're going to have to decide on what they want to do next. And they do make a bit of a hard choice to survive, but it's totally understandable. The Rosie crew, after they win the battle, investigate one of the rocks that the ships were around, and they find out that there's a drive attached to it with stealth tech. They find out how the OP are helping to coordinate these attacks through a spotter ship. So it seems that their mission is going to be to find this ship and take it out, which does hark back to season 1 when they're looking for the stealth ships there. And I think the next episode is probably going to focus on the ring, because we didn't